I want to begin with this because this, to me, I woke up on a day which Tuesday ended up being, for me, what I regarded as a very sad and appalling day. And this is the beginning of it. I mean, I don't know, if we go down on it, it's down on this. This is the time where you get a one-legged, disabled 92-year-old man who's in a wheelchair in a care home is actually beaten by our police officers, tasered, screamed at, and then eventually 3 weeks later dies.
Okay, I haven't seen this.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen this. But it just strikes me that a one-legged 92-year-old, there's probably never a circumstance where he needs to be tasered.
Right. Now, if you look at this picture here, there he is, in a chair. This is from the camera of the police officer that tasered him. And you can see in his hand he has what they called a serrated knife.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine that being somebody at 92 may well have also dementia, and anyone who has to understand about dementia is that people with dementia get quite aggressive and quite violent, and specialists should be able to look after him and understand it. Perhaps, as someone said, just throw a blanket over him. That would have actually calmed him down much more quickly than what they did. But that's the position we're in. And here you are. Imagine yourself in this situation where the man is one-legged. He can't really. What is he going to do? Jump up, bounce towards you, and fall over?
Yeah, even if he wasn't one-legged, he's 92.
Yeah.
This isn't exactly like one of those American situations where the guy could be reaching for a gun in the glove box and you've only got a split second to react. No, this is a guy who can't move.
He's in a care home, and he'd actually been wheeled back with the knife in his hand by one of the care home workers into that position in there. And the police come in. This is him, Donald Burgess. And now I want to say, I don't know how to get the to play this, Samson. I don't know if you can do that for us. But watch this now. And it almost brings tears to your eyes. If you are going to be, I'm going to say some people may find, I found it particularly distressing because of what they did to this man.
You'll be spraying on tasers. It's up to you. Do you want to put it down for me?
Look at the shock in his eyes.
Put it on the floor.
He doesn't know what's happening.
Put it on the floor.
We don't want to hurt you.
Don't be silly. Put it on the floor.
Police
What
officer
are they there
with a
for in the
taser.
first place?
Put it down, mate. Come on, Donald. Put it down. Don't be silly.
He doesn't know. He's got dementia. He hasn't a clue what they're doing. He's looking at them wondering.
Yep. Put the knife down.
Just throw it on the floor.
Reasonably sure I could just take it off him.
On the floor. Pop it on the floor. Donald, pop it on the floor.
He's now frightened. He doesn't know.
As many as we need. Put the knife on the floor now, or you'll be sprayed.
And look at it. Is that sharp to you? Does that look really
Looks like
sharp
a
to you?
butter knife.
It looks like a butter
potato
knife.
peeler.
Put it down. Donald, put it down.
And look at her getting in position,
Last
Can you just hold that door?
raising his voice to someone with dementia.
chance. Put it down now. Come on.
Last chance.
Right. Put it down.
Pepper sprays him.
Drop the knife. Drop the knife. Put it on the floor.
Do it now. Drop the knife.
Donald, drop the knife.
You think you're on Cops Love?
Donald.
Put it down. Put it down.
I am disgusted by that woman and disgusted by the man, and I hope all of us are, to be able to see that.
Again, why were the police involved in this situation in the first place? Is it just because he was an old dementia patient who was refusing to put a knife down? What was the call about?
Yeah, so,
I can't help but know if they say small serrated cutlery knife.
yes.
Look
at
at
this.
Butter knife.
It's not a Somalian sword that you see in the streets of Sheffield.
It's
or
not a
Manchester.
machete.
It's not a machete that they allow to, effectively crack on with. This is what is effectively a butter knife. And staff said there he was seen poking a care worker in the stomach with a knife after flicking food at her. That dangerous act of flicking food at her,
Yeah.
exactly what you'd expect for someone who's 92, who's got dementia in that chair. And they called him and they wheeled him back to his room and tried for half an hour to calm him down. He didn't look that aggressive to me.
No, it's a butter knife. You just take it off of him.
You could have just anyone with any sense, and I've spoken to people who worked in care homes. I've spoken to people who have been in situations like that, and all of them have almost been in tears over this particular scenario. And I wanted to say that first of all, these two people, the police officers in here, and I like to say this is important for us to call out actually who they are. I say that whether it's the leaders of a council, whether it's the people who've ignored the rape gang victims, these individuals, every individual has a responsibility. And you have Paul P.C. Smith here, is one of those officers there, and Komoto is another of it. She's the female officer who tasered her. And if you listen to the voice, I got a sense that she was almost loving it. She was almost excited. It was almost like titillating for her to be able to taser a 92-year-old man. If I was a member of her family, she should be shunned by this. This is exactly the sort of characteristics we have in Britain. To turn around and say, "What? How dare you do that?" There's nothing to me that says they're right.
Let's assume that, okay, yeah, this guy has a really sharp knife. He's 92. Just close the door and come back in an hour.
Yeah.
He's going to have fallen asleep.
I mean, there was also, I mean, I know it sounds silly, but a knife that looked that blunt, maybe just put like an oven mitt on.
Yeah.
Take it off him. There are any number of ways that this could have gone about.
Grab his wrist.
So they are being prosecuted at the moment.
Good.
I think they're in Southwark Crown Court. I don't really know what's happening with the trial on that.
I can't help but feel that they feel like they're American cops.
But there he is. This is the individual who did it. Look at him. But you heard his aggressive voice to him. I mean, what excitement did he get? Put it down, put it down. Did he not have any sense about him to shouting at someone with dementia? And that's her in front of him who did the taser. Take a look. What did he do? Did your College of Policing have a special session on how to deal with one-legged disabled people in a wheelchair to taser that loud? And I'm utterly disgusted by this in many ways. So I just thought, well, I'm going to take that and have a look on how we look at policing in this country. And I think here, I then started to look at the numbers. And we've got apparently hundreds of police officers have been sacked each year for bad behaviour. And if we go down here, just as 600 officers dismissed in the last 12 months, 400 a year ago. We've got possession of indecent images of children, 33 for abusing their position of sexual purpose. It's less than 0.5% of the workforce, and I will always emphasise, again, because I know people in the police force myself, that the vast majority of them do go into this to work really hard to try and do the right thing for us, to protect ourselves from serious crime, and many of them are feeling the pressure of the woke system above them.
But the thing is, there's been a drive to recruit police officers.
Yes.
Didn't they say they wanted 20,000 new police officers or something like that?
Yeah, and a lot of them they want coming straight from university rather than
standards are
coming
going down.
Yeah, and while at the same time, a lot of these, by the sounds of it, they don't give the exact number, but in that same paragraph, they say groups of officers punished for sharing deeply offensive WhatsApp messages.
They're the problem.
Yeah.
So what'll that be? Offensive memes?
Yeah, we've seen examples of it.
Yeah.
We've seen that sort of things that come here. They go on and it's like, one, and they pick out always one, like David Garrick. I think, and I see that, and then I come across to the next one. I thought, right, okay, let's start looking in the official statistics. It's always more useful to do this. And if we can come down on here, I found this page really fascinating because it breaks them down into thousands. It wasn't the numbers that we just saw. It was 96,000 misconduct offences by police officers last year alone.
96,000?
Yes, and they break them down into these groups of what they call them in comparisons. Formal misconducts here for individuals in 1,698 for misconduct proceedings. And when we break them down to types of officers, different types of misconduct, different types of hearings, they go through this. And allegations, 97,000 police officers under Schedule 3 complaints. Well, I hadn't enough time to really wonder what Schedule 3 complaints were, how you broke it down.
Yeah.
But I just wanted people to, if you just wanted to glance at some of the types of offences and the numbers. And again, we talk about the numbers of police officers, 147,000, but we're looking near 100,000 offences. That's almost one for one.
At least the allegations.
Yes,
Well,
the allegations.
I can tell you anecdotally that a friend of mine at the end of last year, stopped working as a police officer and moved to a different career instead, which is a real shame because I've known him most of my life and he always wanted to be a police officer. But he said one of the major reasons was that the people that he was working with, that they were hiring, were not up to standard and he couldn't trust them to have his back. And he was not liking the way that he was being policed within the police itself because of the fact that he was somebody who was working in Stoke, who had to deal with a lot of the problems that happen in certain communities around Stoke that he wasn't able to deal with properly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this, if I started to delve into the complaints, the conducts, and the recordable conduct manners that are going against the police officers, I bet there is a racial element to it.
Well, one of the other things, and I should be careful not to give too much information, but basically one of the other problems was that with a lot of the women coming into the force, a lot of them file frivolous complaints about against male officers. He was subject to one because he had been very short with a female officer when she was not driving properly, when he was taking her on her first drive around, and she filed a complaint against him for that, for like misconduct, abusive behaviour. Because I think she failed to signal or failed to do something with the lights, and he was like, "Don't do that." Was just very direct about it. Apparently, that was enough for her to start trying to make complaints about it.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, and that's similar to sort of stories I've had about the old guard and what they're called in the new guard and why they don't want to stay for very long. And I said I just printed this out for people just to understand the level of complaints that are being made.
How many police officers are there?
About 147,000. So that's
I have 147,000 police.
We've got 97.
There have been 97,000 allegations made against them.
Yes, last year. There's almost one.
In 1 year.
Yeah, 75%.
That is
1 year.
Unbelievable.
And obviously, there's a lot more research to go into finding out what the complaints are, what the allegations are, how many individuals were involved in that. Could a police officer have had like 10 complaints made against?
Yeah, well, they must have done.
And that's my suspicion. But the idea is that we've either got people complaining so heavily against the police officers for exactly the same sort of reasons your friend are, or I think concerted elements by community groups that complain about actions so that they can control it. So a bit of research behind who the individuals being complained are about, what race, nationality they are, against the people making the allegations. But I'm going to move on now to the criminal proceedings. Just interesting on this, because I'm linking this now to the story that we have. There were actually 227 criminal proceedings related to 133 unique police officers last year. In 1 year. And I think that's quite a lot of police officers to be charged with criminal proceedings.
It seems like a lot to me.
And we know the results in there. And is it related to, and again, it's a sort of research I could go in, it's not quite the type of area I've looked at, but I thought, there's a criminality about this. We've seen the police officers that have got involved with drugs gangsters. We've seen the head of a prison connected to drug gangsters. All of this is now becoming more and more relevant and prevalent, I think, by looking at the statistics. This was just something that I think people will have to look at when we're doing analysis of research. Always try and look at some of the main facts and figures. We got 140,000 there in police officers full-time. Ethnicity is only known for 136,000. Somehow we don't know the ethnicity of 4. We've got now 91% and 8.1% Asian, black, mixed and other, which is...
So that's totally disproportionate.
Yes. Yeah, and again, if you look at the senior police officers, the numbers are creeping up from mixed and ethnic groups in terms of that. The percentage of police officers, England and Wales in 2021 census there is now 18.3% from an ethnic minority background. So in certain areas, I can imagine that there is an excessive number of ethnic minority backgrounds compared to the white communities. Further research, but it all goes to the kind of level of change that's happening in the police officers and the community there, but also the change in the complaints. Is there a correlation that we've got between this? And I just wanted to try and look at some of this. This is some of the individual misconduct proceedings, and take the numbers of that. The white community there, you'd expect to have bigger numbers, 584, 335, 272. but the percentage of the numbers of the black, mixed and Asian is bigger in percentage terms, and bigger in percentage terms per capita of the individuals as well. Not trying to say that all of them are committing crimes, but again, is it because we've got this accelerated programs to bring people in who may not necessarily have had a desire to be a police officer, it's just because it's woke?
Maybe it could be racism.
Again, from what I've been told, the actual standards for onboarding people into the police system have completely deteriorated.
I saw, what was the name of the police chief, the Met police chief, who was saying they specifically want to recruit from minority communities to represent them. And it's like, okay, but that's not what the...
Was it West Yorkshire Police as well, saying they didn't
yeah,
hire white police officers?
Sorry, you're right. That was the one. And it's just like, but this isn't a political arm of the state. This is meant to be a neutral arm of the state that's preserving law and order. So representation is not the question.
No, it's
efficacy is the question.
Desire and honesty. And without a doubt, you again, a friend of mine is a black police officer, very, very good one, gets fed up with seeing people being promoted. But in his view, not because they've got talent, but because they've got the right kind of skills that are required by the chief constable, in his words.
Schmoozers.
Yes, and I think to a certain extent, this is something that's causing police officers a huge amount of concern and links over to why we get the first instance of individuals that are willing to go for it. Now, of course, no story about police officers wouldn't be the same without the fact that it's all about police brutality in the UK is down to race. So here we have...
this all goes back to the Stephen Lawrence situation. Yes, right
there. You go. This is what I'm going to go.
Line, over 20 years since the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, in which...
Next paragraph. In the wake of the murder of George Floyd.
Something that didn't even happen here.
Swarmed with images of police violence.
And again, if you actually look at the Stephen Lawrence inquiry as well, all of the reports from it were just that, it's institutionally racist. The police are institutionally racist, with nothing to actually back it up, with no counter-arguments given to show this is how it would have been dealt differently if Stephen Lawrence was a different race, that they would have followed it up. And from what I saw, the actual original investigation into Stephen Lawrence's death, they didn't really have all that much to follow up on in the first place. The family were just annoyed that they had a few witnesses who said, it was a white group of kids that did it, that they didn't have enough evidence to follow up on properly. But that's how police work is. If you don't have the evidence, you can't do much with it.
They then said it was institutionally racist, that they didn't pursue this to the nth degree, and that's why we've ended up with such changes in there. But I wanted to point this out because this is always the background image now that's going through the police force. At the background, the crime is being undertaken, and the police force is aggressive and violent, but it's only against black people. I didn't see a black person who was a 92-year-old one-legged wheelchair person there being tasered by two white police officers there. Mm-hmm. I don't see the George Floyd marches on the streets over that. I don't see the anger on the Ian Dale shows about this. Why?
To me, it looked like just ranking competence. Two people who weren't really fit for the job given weapons.
But if that person was a black 92-year-old individual, it would be coming down to here, institutional racism. Again, as we always say, the violence of police against the criminal is against black individuals in this country. And, I thought, well, again, let's look at the evidence. I've just shown you the evidence of the police officers, the evidence of the misconducts, what the percentages of the people involved in that. Then we go to the deaths in police custody. 1,927 deaths in police custody or otherwise since 1990. It's actually, to be fair, it's pretty difficult to go all the way back to 1990. I try to do the research on this, and this comes from the inquest.org, and they're actually pretty. Oh, sorry, I need to go back. Previous to that, they're actually pretty decent on here. They get custody, shootings, pursuits from this.
I've looked into this previously. Will it shock you to learn that actually it's disproportionately working class white men?
Exactly what I'm about to show.
Would that shock you?
No.
No, of course not.
So they're pretty good. They go down here, they list them all, and again, you can find this out in a different form of statistics. But I thought it was fascinating to try and look across the actual ethnicity of this. So I follow, for anybody who wants to know, that this kind of organisation, the Independent Office of Police Conduct, I've got here just up on the line 2022, 2023. When you run through this, it doesn't do the backdated stats in this. It doesn't do the whole years of, say, 2000 or 1990. You have to go each individual report to find the numbers on ethnicity related to who was impacted by it, and build up your own charts. But if people wanted to find out real stories about the stats on crime and who's being shot and killed by the police, it's in this report for each year. So I listed it up there as a form of evidence of where we get our details from, because no one's going to claim the right and not looking at the left's evidence. And here we are. So this is exactly where we've got deaths in custody since 2015. Pretty much relatively small numbers in terms of here, but the deaths are the D, the whites are the whites, the blacks are blacks, Asians are mixed.
Right. So minorities, basically.
Yes.
All right.
Take a look at the numbers. 15, 18 died in custody, 16 whites, 2 blacks. 14 in 2016, 11, 3.
Yeah,
You could see
disproportionate.
the numbers are disproportionately in both gross terms and percentage terms. Apart from potentially, you could argue 2019, which is the period where we had a lot of terrorist bombs.
I think 2017 is the year you're referring to, where we have 7 deaths in the mixed categories.
Apart from that one, but we had a lot of terrorist activities going on there. So I kind of drew a little graph just to show people there. That's how significant are deaths, whites to blacks, in terms of this. White, blacks, Asians are mixed. The stats don't show that we've got institutional racism about deaths in custody.
No.
By our police forces in here, in our country. May well be different in the United States. Do not have the stats for that. And if I go next, then I do deaths by police shooting. Because, of course, we've all got our George Floyds. Remember when they went and shot that black man and went after...
They wanted to turn... I've forgotten his name, but it was the Londoner who was trying to run over the police officers who got shot in the head.
I remember him.
I covered it a few times. They desperately wanted to make him the British George Floyd.
Absolutely.
But the weight of evidence was against them for that.
And again, here we are from 2015. There's the data have gone back. I can show you the number of deaths by shooting, thankfully, by our police is relatively low. Biggest in there is 2016. And that's a relatively 1/3, 2/3 split between that, which is a bit more abnormal in terms of those numbers. But look at the fact it's mainly white people who are shot by the police, both in gross terms and percentage terms. The only one is 2021. I'll talk about that, is because the other person who was shot by the police, there was an indeterminate race.
Right.
They couldn't work out who that was.
It does tend to vary year on year.
Yeah.
But it was like 2019. It was all people of ethnic minority backgrounds.
Yeah, they were the terrorists that we shot at, I think, outside Southwark.
Of course, and when you're talking about such small figures, it's almost irrelevant to try and figure out statistical patterns, because the situations that they find themselves in are going to be so different each time.
So again, if we look at the graphs on there, yes, there's a bit more in terms of the numbers, in terms of a balance, but this is not showing a police force that's institutionally racist. It's not showing a police force that actively goes out and shoots people of colour compared to those of whites about it. What it does show is that our police force actually don't shoot as many people. There aren't as many deaths, thankfully, in custody. There's another bit of research that I can add on that will probably add a little bit more in terms of numbers per year. But overall, what it does show is that there is an attitude changing in our police force that results in people like a 92-year-old being tasered, battened, pepper sprayed, whilst he's in a wheelchair. And I want to dispel the argument that we've got racism in our police force based on the numbers of deaths in custody. That doesn't happen, but I'm not going to dispel the fact that we've got a change in our police force that needs to change when they're doing things like that. And that's what I wanted to bring people to understand today. Let's have the evidence to fight back against the left. Let's provide them with the research whenever someone comes up with a George Floyd argument or institutional racism in the police. It isn't there. In fact, the numbers are beginning to show the opposite.
We've been complaining about what appears to be the intentional degradation of our educational system for years now. If you went through the state school system in the UK, as I did, you will know exactly what I mean. Just listen to the man in the street interviews from the 1960s compared to those done now, and it is crystal clear that those people then have something that we don't have now. Put simply, we're being dumbed down by the powers that be on purpose, but we don't have to accept this perpetual lowering of standards. We are still a free people, and it's time to do something about it. This is why we have created courses.lotuseaters.com, a platform on which we are now offering courses which are tailor-made to reconstruct the education that has been denied to us. The first course we have available is Dr. Nima Parvini's Excellent Trivium, a tripartite course consisting of logic, grammar, and rhetoric, which is the foundation and backbone of a classical education. This course will make you a better writer, speaker, and thinker, and it used to be that every 12-year-old in the country would take it. Personally, I will be doing this course with my own children to ensure they get the benefits of it for their whole lives, but it's never too late to do it, and I really think you should. We will also be producing many other courses in the future on subjects which are not topics of idle interest, but which instead will level you up as a person and make you more effective in the real world. I want to be clear, these are not YouTube videos. They are university-level lectures and coursework with a test at the end to which you will have to apply yourself. In these, we are not offering you an easy life. We are offering you the foundations of what you will need to be a part of the ascent of our civilization out of the hole that was dug for us. They are not easy, but they are rewarding. They are an investment in yourself that will provide you with skills that you will use for the rest of your life. Courses.lotuseaters.com. We will see you there.